Guys, there's something happening in the UK which I think is very, very unfair. I don't know what you think. So this is what's happening. Some nurses, about 15 nurses, have received letters from the Home Office asking them to leave. I'm talking about Nigerian trained nurses who were currently in the UK practicing, and they've been asked to leave immediately, right? Stop that. So they told them to leave latest by 17th of March, which was like yesterday, because I'm filming this video on the 18th of March. As to whether these guys have been able to appeal or they have left, I have no idea. But I feel like this should be sounded loudly because it is not fair. Why am I saying this? We all know of the scandal that happened some time back. I was it last year or 2 years ago, where at a certain test center, they discovered that people were writing their CBT exam fraudulently. So for those who don't know what the CBT is, it's part of the exams that you have to write as an internationally trained nurse to be able to come and practice in the UK. And at a particular test center, they discovered that there were some fraudulent activities going on, and so they did some investigations. Okay, so these are nurses who were affected as part of the whole investigation. But for those who don't know about the story, let me just refresh your memories, because I did a video about this. So let me just play certain parts of the video so that your memory will be refreshed, okay? And then we'll come back to why this is so unfair.
You know already, if you're a foreign trained nurse, to be eligible to register and join the Nursing and Midwifery Council of the UK to get a license to practice in the UK as a nurse or a midwife, there are certain exams that you are required to write, okay? That's if you're from Africa, Asia, or the Caribbean. The very two important ones that everybody writes is the CBT, which is the computer-based test that you do. You usually do this in your home country, and then if you're not from an English-speaking country, you do the IELTS or the OET as well. And then when you get to the UK as well, you do the practical exam, which is the OSCE, okay? So these are the examination requirements that you need to pass to be able to join the UK Nursing and Midwifery Council and get your license to practice as a nurse in the UK. So with the IELTS exam, you can write at any British Council exam test center, okay, in the various countries. But with the computer-based test, that is the CBT exam that we do, you have to take it at a Pearson VUE exam test center, okay? Some people call it Pearson VUE, others call it Pearson VUE, okay? So if you're hearing Pearson VUE for the first time, so it's an organization that deals with organizing professional exams, okay, for various professional organizations across the world. And Pearson VUE has various test centers spread across the world, okay? So let's say if you want to become a doctor in the US, you have to write it at a Pearson VUE test center. If it is the NCLEX, you have to write it at a Pearson VUE test center that writes NCLEX, okay? Back in 2018 in Ghana, I remember that there was only one Pearson VUE test center in Ghana. Now I don't know the situation, which was in Total House Accra. So there are several Pearson VUE test centers where people sit to write their CBT in Nigeria, and there's one in Ibadan. And this news I'm giving in this video greatly affects every single nurse who wrote their exam in this test center in Ibadan. So let me explain this to you so that you understand how this whole thing happened. So with Pearson VUE, it's an international company, okay, that have various test centers across the world. So if you are a company or an institution and then you want to set up a Pearson VUE test center, so let's say Nanel, and I want to set up a Pearson VUE test center in Ghana, okay, I would have to seek permission from the motherboard Pearson VUE, and then they'll see if I meet all the requirements, they'll check the exam center and see if everything is on point, and then they'll give me the permission to set up a Pearson VUE, so sort of like a franchise, okay? So the Pearson VUE, the big Pearson VUE, the international Pearson VUE, they realize that there's some fraudulent or suspicious things going on in the Pearson VUE test center in Ibadan, Nigeria, okay? So they alerted the NMC, and as a result of that, they closed the Pearson VUE test center in Ibadan. So as of now, if you were booked to go and write an exam in that particular test center, I'm sorry, they are not in business as we speak right now. But the sad part is not those that cannot even go and write. The sad part is those that have written their exams there. People that wrote 10 years ago, 5 years ago, if only you wrote your exam in that particular Ibadan Pearson VUE test center. There's bad news. There is bad news. So as of now, on the UK Nursing and Midwifery Council register, there are 512 nurses that took their CBT exam in that particular test center. So now, because of everything, the reports that Pearson VUE has given to NMC UK, now NMC is saying that they need to look into your registration to check whether you genuinely passed the exam and that your entry to the register was not achieved fraudulently. You understand? So it's like there are a lot of suspicions to anybody at all that ever that wrote their CBT in that particular exam test center. So now the NMC wants to do an investigation to see that these 512 people, you genuinely passed the exam and you qualify to be on the nurses register. This is really sad. Imagine somebody who has been here for 7 years or 8 years, they have practiced, they've probably gotten their British citizenship, and suddenly this news comes up. This is terrible.
When they did the investigation initially, they found out that about 48 people who were already on the register and were at the moment in the UK practicing were suspects. Okay, they were suspected to have attained their test scores fraudulently. And there were other people who were now in the process of applying to join the UK register. There were about 669 people. They were also suspects or suspected to have obtained their results fraudulently. Now, the NMC gave everybody the chance to rewrite the test. So you could go and rewrite the test and all of that. But they made mention, they stated that rewriting the test did not mean that you cannot be found guilty. It will just help them to make a decision on your case if it came to that, right? Now, what's happening is that as of 11th of January 2024, 1,345 people who were affected out of the 1,955 people rebooked and sat the test. Okay, this is 69% of the total number, right? And I'm sure most of them or all of them passed, although I don't have the details, right? Now, there's 669 people who were not yet in the UK and were now applying to join the UK NMC register. They were told that after they have done the new CBT or they have retaken the test now, an assistant registrar, for short an AR, will now determine if they qualify to be on the register. Okay, so for them that was their case. But now, what about those that were already here and practicing, for the 50 plus people or the 48 people? So for them, they said that there'll be a hearing where they'll go and see a panel, NMC panel, and then they will decide whether they needed to remain on the register or they should be taking off, right? Which is fair. Now, later on, out of the 669 applicants who retook the test and reapplied using the assistant registrar pathway, out of them, about 80 of them were now approved to join the register, and the remaining were just refused and rejected, which I think is even better. Their case is even better than those that were already on the register and already in the UK, because for them, they had not even moved to the UK yet, so they could think of other pathways, right? Now, they also discovered a further 400 plus people that sat at this particular test center. They were already in the UK, but they were not suspects in this whole case. So now, even those that were not suspected of cheating at the exam, now NMC was treating all CBTs from this particular test center as invalid. So even them who were not suspects, they had to retake their CBT. So they retook it, and as of 16th of January of last year, 392 of them had successfully written it and they had been put back on the NMC register. So for them, lucky them. Now, there were still some people left. Out of the people who wrote there and were not considered suspects as well, there were about 771 of those people. They wrote there, they were not in the UK yet, they were still in the process, but now their results were invalid, so they also had to sit and write the exam, and then they did. And out of the 199 of them were put back to join the register. They were successful. Now, for the people who were now suspects, okay, the main issue was that either there were proxy test takers, that means somebody sat for the exam for them, which is a big crime. I mean, that is, you don't deserve to be here then. So if you use a proxy test taker, this video is not even about them. For them, it's fair for them to leave the country, okay? However, there were some people whose basis of, achieving their score fraudulently was just because they were fast test takers. They finished the test in a very short time, right? And that is the part where I think those people need to be reheard, okay? So some of these people, they have appealed, okay? And out of these people, one person has been successful and has been put back on the register. The remaining of them who are still waiting for their appeal, and they wrote a letter to the NMC stating that the NMC should facilitate this hearing, because now what happened was that after the news became public and it went viral, some of the employers, their visas were revoked. They were home now, and then you know the situation. If your visa is revoked, you are home now. Probably you came with your family, you came with your children. Now you are not working. How are you going to get money to pay your rent? How are you going to get money to feed yourself and your family? Meanwhile, the NMC is taking forever to listen to them. And now on top of that, the Home Office is asking them to leave when they have not been heard yet. Listen to them. Out of the people that were suspected, 20 individuals admitted to using a proxy test taker. So 20 people confirmed that somebody wrote it on their behalf, which is totally wrong. For them, they should be struck off. And there was one person who was in the UK at the moment who also admitted to using a proxy test taker. Okay, so out of the 20 people that admitted they were back in Nigeria, they were not in the UK yet, but there was one person who was in the UK at the moment who also used a proxy test taker and admitted to it. Okay, for that person, we don't feel sorry for them. They are not even part of our concern. But for the people who were suspected only because they passed the exam faster, that's where my concern is. And then some of the nurses have explained that, first of all, there were so many practice questions on the internet, so many practice questions around that they solved. And then they realized that the CBT was very similar to these practice questions. Some of them, the wording was even the same. So immediately they see the question, they know the answer already. And I don't think it was their fault. It's not like they bought the questions from somebody who works with the NMC or anything. They were just solving CBT questions on the internet, practice questions that they kept solving. That people have made YouTube about some of these questions and all of that. And so going back to the exam test center and you see very, very similar ones, and the questions were not challenging. And what they don't know about is that, I don't think there's anybody who will be able to pass the NCLEX in 25 minutes. You cannot, okay, because it involves a lot of critical thinking, and the way it is drafted, you will have to sit down and think. So if somebody passes it fast, I don't think it's a reason for them to think that the person was acquired fraudulently. And then more so, the fact that one person out of the group have been able to successfully appeal and has been put back on the register. That means the likelihood of other people appealing and being successful is very high. And they are appealing, they are waiting for a date for you guys to hear them. They haven't heard from you guys yet. They've sent you a letter to state that kindly speed up the process. And as you are taking long to decide or give them a date to hear them out, contact the Home Office so that nothing happens, so that they still have the legal rights to be in the UK pending this whole hearing. Now, they didn't hear from the NMC, and now they've heard from the Home Office that they should leave. And some of them are even saying that the NMC is doing this deliberately so that they would leave and then they will not have a fair hearing. And that is where I think is wrong. If my only basis of being called a suspect is because I passed the test quicker, look at other things as well. And the thing is that apparently there were no CCTV cameras at the test center, and apparently they used this vein checker thing to do it. But according to Pearson View, some of the workers there were also aware of the illegalities going on, so they could have, found their way around that. That's how come there was proxy test taker taking the exams for people, which is so wrong. But I feel like our sisters and brothers who did not use a proxy test taker did the exams themselves, but the only basis that they found themselves wanted is because they finished the exam quickly. I think that they should be given a fair hearing, honestly. And I feel like they should be given more time to be in the UK to sort out this issue before they are sent back. Because the sad part is that this brings them to the end of their lives. Because one, now they can't travel anywhere else to work. They can't go to the US to work. They can't go to New Zealand. They can't go to Australia. They can't go to Canada. Because all of these countries, they are going to ask them, have you ever had any criminal investigations regarding your license and all of that? And they would have to answer yes. And that might just be the end of it. The only place they may be able to work is probably Nigeria. Why should they have to go through this? I feel like if one person out of the group has been successful and this person has been put back on the register, they should give the other people the chance. They should give them more time. And the solicitors or the lawyers that they are using are saying that they should apply the same reason why they put that person back on the register to the rest of them, because the reasons are the same. They learned, some of them said they learned for months, they solved so many questions, and the wording was almost the same. The CBT was not challenging. And the most important part is that, especially for those people that have been in the UK for a while and they have been caught in this particular scandal, they did an OSCE, which is even tougher. They passed the OSCE. Did they not? Or did they use proxy test takers to pass the OSCE as well? The OSCE is more difficult. The OSCE is a practical exam. You have cameras at the OSCE test center. Did these people use a proxy test taker for the OSCE too? Or did they pass the OSCE on their own merit? And after they came to the UK and they started working, has their employer ever suspected them of any, fitness to practice issues? Have they done anything to make you think they are not qualified enough? I feel like if you look at all these things, what about their character? What are their neighbors saying? What are their colleagues at work saying? I feel like if they're able to prove all of these things, they should be given a fair chance. They've worked years in the UK without any issues. They were able to pass the OSCE without any issues. They've not had any fitness to practice queries on their practice ever since they moved to the UK. Their only crime is because they passed the exam too fast. I feel like that's not fair. They should be given a fair hearing. Now, they sent the NMC a pre-action protocol letter and they gave the NMC 14 days to respond. And as part of the pre-action protocol letter, they stated there that the NMC should speed up their hearing so that, all these Home Office issues will not happen. But the NMC failed. Now, the NMC is saying that it is not deliberate. They are not doing this deliberately. But now the Home Office is asking them to leave. So what happens now? If one of the 50 nurses has been able to successfully appeal and has been put back on the register, what shows that the rest, some of them will not also be successful in appealing? Why don't you hear them out first before sending them away and putting this dent on their reputation for the rest of their lives? It's so unfair. And they'll go back to Nigeria and the stigma will follow them for the rest of their life. Some of them might be depressed, and we know what depression can do to families and to people. Guys, let's sound this louder. Like, these people should be here. They shouldn't be sent back home. Do you know anybody facing this? Are you part of the people? My heart is with you. I'm praying for you, okay? As for those who made other people sit for them, they don't even deserve it. But guys, what is this? What is this? Guys, what are your thoughts? What do you think?